baseball lifestyle. It's my lifestyle.
And we're live?
Yeah.
We're live! Welcome back to the Grounds Crew, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Josh Gerson, with Dennis Dietz producing.
Not Bill.
Not Bill today. He's feeling unwell, so he's not with us. Bill, we miss you. Feel better. Before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe. Toss us a review. Follow us on all social platforms. They'll be listed below. And make sure you follow us on TikTok. We're a good time on there. Dennis, I got a story for you.
Tell me.
All right. I went for a drive this week.
Okay.
Nice long drive, beautiful day. Just, cruising around doing my thing. I was driving along the coastline, and I saw this cliff, and there was like a sign there. And it said, on the sign, it said, from late May to early June of 2022, this is the cliff that the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim fell off of. And, I sat there for a second, and I was like, wow, that's sad. Because the Angels have lost 14 games in a row, Dennis. 14 in a row. And on top of that, they fired their manager, Joe Maddon, in the process. And it hasn't gotten better. It's continued to get worse, and it's sad, really, because there was a time where we sat here and we said, the Angels have a nice little shot at winning the AL West. I won't even say that you might have picked them to win the AL West. Is that correct?
I picked the Astros.
Picked the Astros? Okay, I think then it was Bill that picked the Angels.
Yeah, Bill picked the Angels.
Yeah,
he said, I believe, something along the lines of there's no shot they don't win the division this year.
Probably. That sounds about right. And it's unfortunate that this is happening and then Bill's not on the show. That's just, it's poetic, really.
Convenient how that works, Billiam.
Yeah. It's disappointing because you know what? They were right in the hunt. They were kind of neck and neck with the Astros, the Mariners a little bit, and now all of a sudden, not even at the All-Star break yet, the Angels are 9.5 back.
At least they put out cool jerseys.
They did put out cool jerseys. That didn't really help them much, but they looked cool, and that's good. That counts for something at least. And then on top of that, they decided, hey, we're going to shake it up a little bit. We're going to have everybody walk out to Nickelback because that's what's going to fix us. And
I want to say Nickelback is probably Mike Trout's favorite brand. Like, if you really had to pick a
if
band,
you had to guess like what he listens to,
what Mike Trout listens to, it's Nickelback, 100%.
It's Nickelback or Queen.
I don't know about Queen.
I don't know. I guess he just listens to We Are the Champions to warm up. Or like, maybe it's not Queen. It's something from that era, though.
Fair enough.
I could see him like being like an Aerosmith guy. I don't know. Mike Trout just seems like or maybe he just listens to like Kids Bop. I don't know. Either way, they thought that having Nickelback walk-up songs for everybody was going to be the answer to all their problems, and they were wrong.
They're down bad.
They're down real bad. Like I said, 9.5 back in the West. The Astros are on top right now. Just not what you want to see. Mike Trout, ice cold. We'll get to that in a little bit. How's Shohei Ohtani doing?
So ice cold.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's just not ideal. What are his stats like?
So during this stretch, Ohtani is batting 186 with a 735 OPS, which has essentially just been he's walking a lot. He's got 8 walks, an intentional walk, and 2 hit by pitches during that stretch. So his OPS is strictly because of his on-base percentage.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know he was definitely struggling when they played the Yankees on the mound as well.
Yeah, he's 0 for his last 2 starts, 9 ERA in 2 starts, and his average against is 359. His OPS against is 1185.
Oh my God. Ugh, Ohtani, brother. Yeah, the Angels have just been all over the place, and I don't know what it is because I feel like they really had it all kind of figured out in the first little bit, and since I guess end of May, really, the last 2.5 weeks, they've just been broken. And now you said a little interesting thing that you discovered while going through that last 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, so Anthony Rendon's been out during this entire stretch.
Mm-hmm.
So what that tells me is he's actually the leader in the clubhouse, and Mike Trout is a baby bitch.
I mean, listen, I could see, obviously neither of us played for the Angels. We have no idea what their clubhouse dynamic is. But I could see a very real world where Mike Trout's lead by example kind of guy, not necessarily a vocal person in the clubhouse. He's probably not the guy to sit them down after losing 14 in a row and be like, guys, we need to figure the F out because this is ugly. I could see it needing to be somebody else. Obviously, it can't be Ohtani for language barrier reasons. Although it would be pretty funny for him to give a speech and then his translator's just going absolutely apeshit.
And then the entire locker room's like, yeah!
Let's go! That would be so electric. I actually really hope that happens.
There's a pause after he starts talking. You hear the translator and then the applause. Yeah.
But it's like he says something right in Japanese and then his translator like steps up super calmly and goes, "Let's go! Get hyped!" That would just be incredible. That would go viral everywhere. But their upcoming stretch, I know they face the Mets at some point. I think today, no, tomorrow they get the Mets. Oh yeah, pray for the Angels. They have the Mets, Dodgers, Mariners, and then they have a little bit of a break. But they're gonna be busy, and that's not what you want from them. I wanted better. I need them to start gaining some ground because that's what I feel like that's one of the things we wanted from the beginning of the season was like, hey, this crew of people they've assembled finally could have a chance to be a playoff contender. At minimum, maybe a wild card team. I understand the Astros are a great club. I get that. Minimum a wild card would be nice. But they're being the Angels of old right now, and it is unfortunate. If anything, maybe they're active at the trade deadline. That fires them up a little bit. We'll see. Hopping back over to talk more about managers getting fired. The Phillies cut Joe Girardi last week. They had been playing just as terrible as the Angels have been. And it was interesting because from what I understand, their GM, who I think is Dombrowski, is not typically a guy that will fire a manager mid-season. So nobody really thought that they were going to cut Girardi. They were like, hey, maybe they'll reevaluate at the end of the season or something like that. I guess there was enough pressure for him where people look at him and saying, hey, dude, like you're spending top 5 in the bigs right now for your team, and they're playing like a bottom 5 team. That just is a terrible look. So they let Girardi go, brought in Rob Thompson, not Rob Thomas, not to be confused.
With the Matchbox 20 singer?
Yes.
Or the center for the St. Louis Blues?
Sure. Thank you for that hockey factoid. Dennis's hockey factoids for today. But they moved on from him, and since they moved on from Girardi, unlike the Angels, the Phillies have been playing a lot better. How have they been doing, Dietz?
That is a great question. Let me pull that up real quick.
Well, I can tell you this. Bryson Stott has been absolutely raking since getting a little bit more playing time, and I think that was one of the things that they were highlighting. Not they. Bryce Harper highlighted in an interview following Girardi getting fired is that maybe the young guys need to get a little bit more time because they got some talented dudes on their roster and they haven't been playing enough. Example A is Bryson Stott because all of a sudden he's getting more playing time and the guy has been hitting bombs left and right. Walk-off grand slam, I believe, last week. Crushing it. I'm not going to say it was also because the BL guys linked up with him at Citi Field. I'm not going to say that. That would be preposterous to say that us meeting up with him was the key to his success and the Phillies taking off and not necessarily winning the division because that's not going to happen. But being a baseball club that you can be proud of.
Yeah, so the Phillies are 5-0 in June. Bryce Harper has been absolutely killing it. He's batting .385 with a 16.24 OPS so far in June.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Bryson Stott, since June 1st, he is batting .263 with a 9.12 OPS.
Woo!
2 home runs. So they're heating up with those guys. I'm sure Castellanos is hitting home runs still whenever something terrible happens to someone.
Yeah, at some point.
So.
Even if it's not national news, we know it's out there. It's happening. And listen, I know nobody wants to hear me say it, but Bryce Harper's up there in an MVP conversation. It's a reality. It's probably not going to happen because there are guys who are playing way better. Example, Paul Goldschmidt, ridiculous. Mookie Betts, ridiculous.
Manny Machado,
ridiculous.
Pete Alonso.
Not quite as ridiculous, but ridiculous. The Phillies have been making their way back. Now, there's still They still have some ground to cover. They're still 9.5 back of the Mets. But you know who's also starting to figure it out? And actually concerns me is the Braves. Braves have won 8 of their last 10. They're only 7.5 back of the Mets now. And I think they were 9 or 10 recently, and obviously the Mets have struggled a little bit in recent. They split their series with the Dodgers, just lost 2 bad games to the Padres. I think they're just a little out of funk, had some injuries. Pete got hit. Marte had like a hamstring thing or something. So, and the Mets play the Braves next month. So they have some room. They actually have a pretty easy schedule coming up, which I think is good for them. They'll have some time to bounce back, maybe play a lot better games and kind of maybe get some more space between them and the Braves before they see them in July, because obviously end of the season too, they get a lot of in-division games. So it'd be nice to have a real big cushion at the All-Star break, because I think we had some semblance of a cushion at the All-Star break last year, and that disappeared instantly in a very, very bad way. So
if I'm not mistaken, too, this is around the same time the Braves got hot last year. So if they're going to continue to get hot, especially with Ronald Acuna just being an absolute world beater now, hopefully no monumental collapse for the Mets.
No, you definitely would hate to see that. And I think actually they got hot a little bit later, because I feel like it was right around the All-Star break where the Mets were playing like good enough to hold on to first place, but they had all these injuries, and like it just didn't make sense. That the division was very weird last year. The Mets were, half their team was hurt, but they were still winning a bunch, and it was very strange. But then DeGrom got hurt at the All-Star break, and then the Braves all of a sudden made crazy moves at the All-Star break, and then the Braves won the World Series. So, and Jacob DeGrom's coming back soon. Apparently the Mets are very excited with his progress. Max Scherzer has a few weeks to go still, but that's fine. Again, we're not in a rush. The Mets are 7, almost 8 games up in the division right now. Take your time, boys. As long as we can kind of hold on, get our guys back healthy, they'll be in a good spot midway through the season, which I'm good with. And then also last week, Eduardo Escobar here for the cycle. That's cool. That's cool. He wasn't playing that good, and I think we talked about it, I want to say 2 episodes ago, that he was a liability, possibly could get traded type thing.
Yeah, y'all are talking about J.D. Davis being the starter until they can make a trade for Bogarts or Devers, which I don't think Boston's looking to do at the moment.
I disagree now. Okay. I actually heard someone else, a more mainstream sportscaster, saying that if the Red Sox are not in the mix, that absolutely it makes sense. They were more thinking Bogarts.
I also think it's more Bogarts because he's a little bit older, and he's already said that he's not coming
back.
Yeah,
he would be a good piece to add for like a half a season type thing. And it was interesting too, their comparison, because I think it's more than ever now. The Mets are actually in the conversation for this. The Mets-Dodgers dynamic is so interesting because now not only do they have the same level of wealth in ownership, but the teams are also both as good as each other. Like, no problem. If I said tomorrow the season ended and I told you the NLCS was the Dodgers-Mets, makes perfect sense. And they split because they are relatively equal, you know. But at the trade deadline especially, what the Dodgers have been doing in past is they go out at the trade deadline when they want to win a World Series, and they're getting the best guy for whatever it costs. Last year they got Trey Turner, Max Scherzer. Before that, Machado. Before that, Yu Darvish. Like, they'll add whoever they need to go win a championship. But I think the Mets now, because they're not only are they winning, they have Steve Cohen, they have an established manager, and they're playing really well. Their management's going to be the same way. Mm-hmm. So, what's that going to be like at the trade deadline? Are they going to be fighting over Xander Bogaerts?
That'd be fun to watch.
That's what that conversation sparked into my head. I'm like, that makes perfect sense. Xander Bogaerts is a guy who, like, for the Red Sox, they move Trevor Story over to shortstop and they're golden. And for us, we bring Bogaerts in and pop him over at third base, whatever. And then we're living. So I'm very excited for the trade deadline this year, especially for the Mets. Last year, I was more relatively excited about it, but we didn't make any real impactful moves. Sure, Javi, but that didn't really like move the needle where we needed it to.
Did you hear something recently on SNY? They were talking about the Mets considered cutting Javi Baez after the thumbs down incident.
Oh yes, I did see that. That is ridiculous.
Why are you bringing that up now? Like, I feel like you're just trying to put negative energy onto the Mets. That's so unnecessary at that moment.
SNY, stop that. Like, it didn't matter then. it certainly doesn't matter now. But I hated that whole thumbs down thing. But I also thought it was funny that like Julius Randle picked it up and was doing the same thing to the fans. Like, what are we? Is that our thing now? Like, I don't know. But either way, the Mets they're moving forward. The NL East I think is going to get more interesting as the season goes on. I don't think it's going to stay as lopsided as it is right now. Let's get into the hot list.
Cool. So start off, we'll go with the Braves, Ronald Acuna, since he was mentioned already. His last 15 games, he's batting .368 with a 1041 OPS, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs. Braves are 10-5 in that stretch. It is worth noting, though, they've played the Marlins, the Phillies while they had Girardi, Arizona, Colorado, and Oakland, so not like the greatest of competition, but still you love to see the guy that's supposed to be the face of your team after Freddie leave just absolutely mashing while the team's finding succse. Love
to see it, and I'm glad because he kind of started off a little slow, but he's picked it up as only Ronald Acuna can. And as much as it scares the hell out of me because he is unreal at baseball, it is cool to see, and I'm glad that he's playing well and back to being like that guy because baseball needs that 100%.
And speaking of being that guy, Yordan Alvarez, he got a nice extension. One of Gerson's favorite players in the league.
Yeah.
Last 10 games,
fantasy team.
He's got 5 home runs, 11 RBIs. He's batting .421 with a 1395 OPS. This season, he's got 17 home runs, 36 RBIs, 289 average, and a 1011 OPS.
Yep.
Pretty solid player that I feel hadn't gotten mentioned or love, and you actually got hate for putting him on your All-Star list.
Absolutely. When we were putting together with the guys over at Baseball Institute, and they were asking me who's my all-top MLB team, and I said, Yordan Alvarez, left field. So much hate for it. Guys, wake up. Wake up. He's a beast, and he totally earned that 6 years, $115 million extension. Great move by the Astros locking him up for a while because he's only getting better. And like he's already been a threat. Now he's just an everyday monster.
Are the Astros ever going to be bad again?
That's a good question, Dennis. I would have a hard time saying that they'll ever be bad. I think they'll be like the Cardinals, where like even if on a down year they still have a quality team. Like they lost Correa. Cool. Let's bring up our all-star shortstop, Jeremy Pena, who's maybe not an all-star this year, but he is going to be a phenomenal baseball player. They have Bregman for probably forever. Justin Verlander just casually coming out and having a Cy Young year after at 58 years old. Like it's just ridiculous. They always have Michael Brantley, Tucker, just a really quality baseball team all the way through all the time, even on their down years. So to answer your question, no, I don't think they'll ever be bad. Who else we got? Somebody else in Texas has been killing it.
I'm going to save that for after the pitcher love we're going to give.
Okay.
Because it segues into the cold list.
Excellent.
So, pitcher love. Alec Manoa this season. He's 7-1 with a 1.81 ERA. His whip's under 1. He's got 61 Ks in 69 innings. When we said the Blue Jays could have some Cy Young candidates, I don't think he was on the top of the list, but he has looked absolutely phenomenal this season. We haven't given pitchers enough love.
Yes, yeah, we wanted to highlight some of the pitchers because they have been crushing it. And Alec Manoa, who I know we've talked about a little bit as being like a young stud, and it was he came in, I want to say last year or 2 years ago, he got his debut and pitched really well, and had a lot of potential there. But he's been, I'm sure, everything that Blue Jays could have possibly hoped for, along with Kevin Gausman, Barrios, who's kind of been shaky, but Gausman had an excellent start to the season. And I think he's going to be a key piece for them down the stretch, especially when they're trying to make a push for the division. So having their nice little strong 1-2-3 is like when they're all on, their 1-2-3 is tops in the league, no problem.
Yeah, between the bats and also their 1-2-3 in the rotation, if they make playoffs, that's why I put money on them at the beginning of the season. They're at the top of the list when it comes to teams you don't want to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Not quite the Mets rotation, but
no, but
I mean, yeah. Listen, they could easily compete, so it's good stuff there.
The pitcher that actually made us give the pitcher's love segment, Josh Hader. He's got 18 saves on the season, 30 Ks. His whip's .643.
Just absolutely ridiculous.
But he didn't give up a run until his 20th appearance on the season.
Yep.
It's wild.
Absolutely insane. And shout out to my fantasy team again. What a pickup. Yeah, ridiculous. And like, it really was just so low-key. And it is, I get it, because he only goes out there for pretty much one inning. Occasionally, he'll go like a 4-out save. But sure, one inning, it doesn't get as much attention. He is so ridiculous. He could easily be in the conversation for one of the best, if not the best closer of the decade. And I know, there are some other guys you could think of, Craig Kimbrel's, Kenley Jansen, things like that. But I think out of all of them, Hader has had the most dominating performances constantly. Like, I can't really think of a time where Hader went through a stretch of, like, being okay. Like, I can think of a few times where Kenley Jansen, Craig Kimbrel got batted around a little bit. Hader just gets on the mat and you just, all right, cool, we can, guys, start cleaning up. We're done. It's a wrap. And he did, I think he blew that one save that he just gave up some runs in, which does hurt for the fantasy team, but he's just a beast. And I'm considering making him one of my keepers. I'm not going to lie to you, because he's ridiculous.
Might as well.
Mm-hmm.
Another pitcher, Sandy Alcantara or did I say that wrong?
Alcantara?
Alcantara?
Yeah, no,
whatever.
You might be right.
Whatever, it's the Marlins. No one
Yes.
cares. His last 5 starts, he's 4-0. The team is 5-0 during that stretch. He's got a .69 ERA. Batters are hitting 137 against him with a 395 OPS. He's got 40 strikeouts in 39 innings during that stretch. But even just on the season, he's put it together a 181 ERA and under 1 WHIP. He's been phenomenal.
What a freakazoid.
And then the last pitcher I'm going to mention, Martin, where are you?
Martin Perez?
Martin Perez. 156 ERA on the season in 11 starts for the Rangers. His first 2 starts, he gave up 6 earned runs in 8 innings pitched. Since then, he's given up 6 earned runs in 61 innings pitched.
Oh, my God. That's so wild.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And then sticking with the Texas Rangers, Marcus Semien, last 15 games, he's got 6 home runs, 13 RBIs, batting .318 with a 10.22 OPS. However, in 7 games in June, he's got 5 home runs, 5 RBIs, so he's hitting solo shots. He wouldn't be a good men's softball league player at that point.
Yeah, a big selfish guy.
355 average and a 12.14 OPS. He also became the first player to have 7 hits and 3 home runs in one day since 1973. They had a doubleheader the other day against the Guardians.
I saw it. Good for him, man. I mean, his start was just so problematic. I have to think the Rangers management were sitting there like, he's going to figure it out. It's going to be okay. This was a good decision. It's going to be fine. Casually crapping their pants every time he was up and striking out or just couldn't get the ball out of the yard. It was crazy.
Can you imagine if both those big money contracts they handed out in the season actually figured it out at the same time?
I mean, we were talking about it, like, if those guys if him and Seeger are playing to their potential, they could be a solid team.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but at least Semien's figured it out.
Well, let's go to the cold list then.
Sounds
because
good to
Corey
me.
Seager's going to kick it off during the same stretch of games as Marcus Semien. He's batting 183 with a 613 OPS, so he's been struggle bussing.
Ouch.
Anything you want to add to that?
It's disappointing. It's the same thing I was saying when Semien wasn't playing well. You know it's in there, but also on to Semien real quick, or just the fact that some guys who weren't hitting as good are hitting better. It goes back to this conversation we've had several times this year and in past years. They're messing with the balls again.
100%.
100%. And I know it's like known at this point across the league that somewhere in the middle of the season, the balls start changing. Who's doing it? How is it happening?
Manfred just loves playing with balls. Let's be real.
Yep, exactly. Phrasing. And I heard somewhere, I think it was Buster Olney was saying it. Apparently at the All-Star game last year, Max Scherzer was going off on an MLB official about the balls changing because he's like, yo, you can't do this and then not like tell us about it and just kind of be like messing with the game with no regard for if the players know or not, which I 100% agree with. I think it's ridiculous. However, get those home run balls in there, especially for the boys in Queens. But
I mean,
I think it's happening.
I mean, the Yankees don't need those balls. They're just hitting home runs regardless.
Facts. I mean, Aaron Judge, I don't need to say anything.
All the money.
All the dollars. Pray for the Yankees, man. because he's gonna own part of the team. But I think, and it seems to be right around this time in the year. Like last year, we had 7 no-hitters in, call it 2 months. It was probably like end of June when the last no-hitter like came through, and then all of a sudden, home run, crazy. Mm-hmm. So I think we're getting to that point now where they're switching it up, and then all of a sudden the offense starts taking off. So hopefully Seeger gets to benefit that. Who else is on the cold list?
This one hurts. Byron Buxton. Last 15 games, he's batting 161 with a 522 OPS. He's got 1 home run and 19 Ks during that stretch. Not great for a guy that was looking like we're finally going to see the potential MVP candidate. So hopefully this is just a cold stretch, but the Twins definitely need him to turn it around.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. What are his stats looking like now on the season? That's what I want to know.
On the season.
Let's see. I'm trying to pull him up right now. Because when he started off, I mean, he's not even in the top 50 in anything right now. Dang. That's crazy.
So on the season, he's now batting .217. He's got 12 home runs, 23 RBIs, 805 OPS, and only 1 stolen base.
Oh, my God. That's so wild. What did you say, 12 jacks?
Yeah.
Goodness, that is so disappointing because I want to say the first 15 games of the season I was like ready to give him the MVP already.
Yeah,
I just want to see him do well, man. He's probably the most athletic / talented guy in the league. He's up there with like Mike Trout in terms of talent. He just can never seem to consistently figure it out, or he gets hurt.
And here's how important he is for his team. So I have splits here for months, but also game outcome. In wins, he's batting .280 with a 1031 OPS. In losses, he's batting .119 with a 442 OPS.
Wow. So if he's killing it, the Twins win.
Yeah. And then in April, he was batting .271, 1069 OPS, 6 home runs. May, he still had 5 home runs, but he only batted .169, 610 OPS. So far in June, he's kind of turned it around. Mm-hmm. The power numbers necessarily aren't there, but he's got a .333 batting average. His OPS is off the charts, but he's also getting a lot of walks and things like that. So
okay. To move down to the cold list, or further down the cold list, we've already hit on them a little bit, but the Angels, just across the board, nobody's hitting.
Yeah, it's everyone in the lineup sucks. Even Taylor Ward, who could have been an MVP candidate at the beginning of the season.
His start was unparalleled.
Trout, we talked about a little bit. He's batting .152 with a 561 OPS during their losing streak. Ohtani, we went through all his stuff. Taylor Ward, .167 batting average, 593 OPS. Brendan Marsh, .140 average, 322 OPS. It's not great.
Nope. I wonder what it is, man. It's so weird that it's happening all at the same time for them too. And I think the only reason people are genuinely wow, how is this happening is because Mike Trout also was because normally it's all right, the Angels suck when Mike Trout's hitting 350. Well, now Mike Trout's batting 160, 152 in how many games in last 15?
14 game losing streak.
Throughout the losing streak, gotcha. That's so brutal. I know. I can't. I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's just atrocious.
Yeah. So since I hate when Baseball Reference does this. Since their losing streak began, he had a 328 batting average. Mm-hmm. He has gone all the way down to a 284, which is still very good.
Yep.
He also was pretty much hitless after the being called the worst commissioner in the league thing until yesterday. So
it's a little fun fact.
Yeah, not great.
Speaking of that saga, Tommy Pham's killing it, right?
Yeah. Let me pull up his numbers real quick for you. But yeah, he's been since his suspension, he's been pretty good for them.
Right? I guess he just got angry now.
Yeah, either that or now he's playing a little more relaxed. He got the punch out on Jock, and that definitely
just gave him a little bit of a
he had release. A lot of anger towards fantasy football that is now gone.
Okay.
So since the suspension, he's batting .333 with a 1090 OPS, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs.
That's pretty good.
Not bad for Tommy Pham over there.
Not bad. You know what happened yesterday? I guess it'll be 2 days ago now. Once this podcast airs, Nestor Cortez had his first bad start of the year.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
I mean, no one's perfect.
Sure.
So I mean, see what happens in the next start. Maybe teams are figuring him out a little bit, or maybe it was just a bad day.
What does that take his brings his ERA to a whopping 1.96. Yeah, no, he didn't have a great line yesterday. 4 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, 4 earned, 2 home runs, and 3 strikeouts. I'm going to say, this is going to be I only saw a little bit of the highlights. I'm going to say that his out pitches weren't working as much. I think one of those home runs was on a 2-strike count. And normally when he can get those strikeouts going, like his last 4 or 5 starts, he has at least 5 Ks. And he's been given the more innings, and like I think just him not being able to get guys out so easily, pitch count, more hits. It just, you know, when your out pitches aren't working and you can't like finish hitters, they see more pitches off you, and it's easier for them to, you know, barrel up some guys.
Yeah.
So,
the other interesting thing that I always like to look at when it comes to a pitcher having a bad day is when do they start giving up everything? And he had 3 shutout innings to start the game. It was just a matter of once that second time in the lineup came around, he wasn't getting them out. And I wonder if it was more of a they figured either that or them figuring out, maybe they saw him tipping pitches or something like that. I don't know.
Could be. Also, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, but like Joe Maddon like chirping the Yankees. Oh yeah, it must have been when they were on their losing streak still. Joe Maddon chirping the Yankees for being able to read signs right, or like have a good job at figuring out what they're throwing.
Apparently, they were tipping their pitches like very clearly. That was the whole thing.
Okay.
So, I think
it was Ohtani.
I believe another media company put out a video like proving it. So
okay, well that's good. That's good. I mean, listen. Major league players are exceptionally good at reading like tipping pitches and like. And I don't think they get enough credit for that. That is extremely hard to do, to pick up little tells and stuff. I remember, I want to say it was who's the Rays pitcher, great pitcher.
Like this season.
He's hurt. Glasnow was tipping his fastball in one of the playoff games. I want to say it was 2 years ago. Like whatever he was doing with his glove, and like upon rewatching it, it was so obvious. But to figure it out in game is so much harder. But he was so blatantly like, oh, like I think he was like turning his glove a certain way when it was a fastball, and it was like, and I think it was the Astros were just absolutely teeing off on him. Yeah.
That's always like a cool feeling too, because I remember even just playing like travel ball when I was younger. Like I'd always be trying to find like whatever pitch tip you can get, and whenever like it's blatantly obvious what they're doing, and you give it to the team, and then all of a sudden you have like a 10-run inning. There's no better feeling.
And like that's the gamesmanship of the game that I like hate, that the sign stealing, like all of those little sagas and things that like people use in video and whatever. Like guys, like there is a way to do this that's like, okay, cool. It's not cheating. It's just you're playing you're playing chess the right way, kind of thing. And that like that's an element of the game that's definitely been lost. Like that's a super high IQ thing that in like the 70s, 80s, like that was always a thing people were looking for. It was never like, all right, check the video, like let's see what signs they are. Like it's different, and it dumbs the game down a little bit. And obviously they have pitch comm now, which I'm still not a fan of. I just think it's. Because you know what it is, too, is like, oh, it'll speed the game up, which it does to a certain extent. It eliminates, like, guys stealing signs at second base, which is also a level of gamesmanship that is just eliminated with that now.
Yeah.
But, like, the things will break in the middle of the game, and then it's like, all right, we got to switch it out or get rid of it or whatever. It's like, and, like, I do enjoy that aspect of when guys are on second base, like, seeing what the signs are in there, trying to figure it out while you're on base, and then being like, bet. And then you also have to relay it without them seeing it. Because if they relay it and then the catcher sees it, they can mix it up, or batter gets thrown at. I don't know. You know what I heard too recently that I wanted to get your opinion on, because you are a big hockey guy. The Mets have been hit so many times by pitches this year. I believe they lead the league at this point. Okay. Like, by a wide margin. And the question was, like, how do you retaliate for that? And in my opinion, like, there's a couple ways you can go about it. Like, because, I know exactly why. It's because Darvish's start 2 games ago, right? He hit the first 3 of 5 batters with inside fastballs. And it's like, he's not Oh no, it's the first 3 to 5 batters in an inning. He had like a no hitter going, so it obviously wasn't intentional. But also to a certain point, it's like you can't keep doing that because as much as there's no like repercussions, because it clearly wasn't intentional, it's still like, okay, well, at what point is enough? We saw it with the Cardinals. The Mets were like, all right, cool, you've hit us 3 times, we're gonna go fight you now, or we're gonna throw at you. And it also has to do with the umpires, right? Like the umpires don't. There was no warnings given out. Like I feel like if you hit 2 batters in an inning, there has to be some type of warnings issued, because then it's like, all right, then you're at least going to force the pitcher to change how he's throwing, because if he hits you again, cool, you're done. Regardless of if it was intentional or not. But also, at the same time, from the player perspective, if the umpires are not doing anything and your team gets hit twice, do you just start throwing hands?
I mean, baseball is obviously a completely different thing. One thing with Buck Showalter is it seems to be a common thing with his teams that he has them crowd the plate. Yep. Because he wants them to get hit by a pitch.
I believe there is a stat that the Mets are like statistically the closest to the plate in the league across their lineup.
The other thing too with Buck is he's always the first person at the top of the steps whenever someone gets thrown at or hit by a pitch, things like that. So I think he just has that mentality of grind out old school baseball.
Yes, oh, absolutely. And that's why my question for you was, do you think the players should start taking it into their hands more and being like, all right, you just hit 2 of our guys in a row, we're just getting after it right now?
So going to the hockey thing, like it used to be, especially back in the 80s, 90s, where you had these enforcer guys where you wouldn't necessarily go back at the guy that hit your player. You go after their team's best player. Yeah. So there goes into, you're going to throw at guys. If you're playing the Phillies, you're going to throw at Harper, things like that. But it's also 100-mile-per-hour fastball.
Right, you can kill someone if you. And I don't advocate for throwing at somebody's head, especially if you're going to hit them. Definitely not at the head. That's insane. We've seen some of the things that have happened. David Wright, Giancarlo Stanton's face, like it can get really ugly. So I don't really advocate for that. However, if you're trying to go in that general area, let's throw it way away from them, like when Noah Syndergaard threw it, Chase Utley in the famous "You got our asses in the Jetpack" video. He threw it behind him, but he threw it, shoulder high. It was, and it had 100 miles an hour. Like, what's crazy about that video that I don't think anybody realizes how fast 100 miles an hour is that thing came out of Noah Syndergaard's hand on a line and hit the backstop on a fly without changing elevation. That's a laser. Because the backstop's another 50 feet. Bruh. So
it's you don't want to retaliate in a way that's going to hurt someone, but at the same time you want to be like, all right, like
you want them to know.
Stop doing this.
Yep. And I think there's a couple the safest way, you drill somebody right in the ass or you hit them in the back. It's a safe spot. There's a lot of meat there. You get the message across. Everyone gets it. Maybe you got to start chirping, whatever, but it's a safe way to go about it. You want to get a little bit heavier of a message across? Sure, you throw behind them a little up high, but it also has to be the right pitcher because they'll have some guys where, and I think this is ridiculous. You get one shot, right? You get one pitch to do it. If you miss and it's way outside or whatever, and it's just not where you wanted it, and you were trying to hit him, you got to move on. You can't throw at the guy 3 times just to hit him. That's ridiculous. If I'm the batter, yes, we're fighting.
Yeah, and not all times where someone gets hit by a pitch is it on purpose. Like we'll talk about the minor league situation that happened the other day. You heard about this, I assume, right?
I vaguely, yeah, but hit me with it.
So the Pensacola Blue Wahoos scored 3 times in the 9th inning, and it's Double-A, so they have weird-ass names.
Sure.
Biloxi Shuckers was the other team. Their rally included no hits. It was a throwing error, a walk, and 4 straight hit batters. And
yes, I did see that.
And that's how they win the game. It's
Crazy.
A come-from-behind game, and they win with 4 straight hit by pitches.
Yep, and that's one of those situations where obviously you're not trying to do that, but also after hit batter number 2, that guy's got to go.
Yeah, it was the same pitcher for all 4 hit batters.
That can't happen. That absolutely cannot happen, especially if you guys are trying to win a game. I understand it's Double-A. Maybe you're not, like, pressing because, like, whatever. It's not a championship or something. Like, great. We'll move on to the next game. But also, guys, let's get my mans out of there and get somebody who throws at least a strike or 2. I mean, that's brutal.
Oh, and other weird things that happen in baseball.
Sure.
It was the Mets game, I think, the other day where they tried to put in the.
Oh, Mets Dodgers. Yes, we got to talk about this.
Yes, we have to talk about this.
Yes. Oh my gosh, how did I forget? Okay, so Dennis, I need you to pull up the full story while I begin our story here. Okay, so Mets Dodgers. Mets were winning by, I believe, 6 runs, and it wasn't too late in the game, 6th or 7th inning. However, Dave Roberts was like, you know what? We're down a little bit. I want to save some pitching. This is a big series. Let's bring in a position player to pitch. Fun fact that absolutely no one knew, not a single person in the league, including the manager of a baseball team, is that a rule that was created in 2020 that would state position players can't come in without, I think it's at least a 6-run lead or being down by 6 runs, and it has to be, I believe, later than the 6th inning. And is that correct?
It is anything under. It has to be over 6 or more runs in the deficit, and it has to be. It doesn't say what inning, but it has to be like later on.
I believe it was the 6th inning, so let's just go with that. But that was a rule that was created in 2020, never actually instituted.
Mm-hmm.
CBA meetings happen. All is good. They figured it out. Moved on. We started this season. That rule has still not been implemented. The season starts. May comes around. So now we're 2 months into the season. And the rule becomes active. Nobody knows about it, but the rule now is in place. And then it comes into play at some point. And the umpires apparently know about it. And
they didn't know about it until Buck pointed it out.
Yes, because Buck Showalter is a genius. And they're like, oh, shoot, you right. And then Dave Roberts is like, what are we talking about here? This isn't a thing. This wasn't a thing when the season started. And it's so frustrating. But he had them call to New York. And they're like, no, it's a real rule. Which I think is just absolutely preposterous that the season can start and we're changing the game on the fly. Just absolutely ridiculous. And he was dumbfounded. I think pretty much everyone, I know the announcers were dumbfounded, like the Mets booth were like, what is happening? Why are they like having conversations about it? I think I was half asleep for it because it was West Coast game, but I did see it.
There was a couple of other interesting tidbits with it. There was an 11-minute delay with that too, so that's one major thing.
Yes.
But I believe it was the last position player on the bench available for the Dodgers. So if the Dodgers come back and tie it, and that game goes to extras, if anything happens to any of their players, they don't have anyone to replace him with.
Yep.
So because they tried to put him in for pitcher, like he was unavailable for the rest of the game, you're putting yourself in a really dangerous position at that point.
Yeah, and I think too, and I feel like I know we've talked about this. Like there has to be some type of like forfeit option, because if you're doing that, like literally, like if that guy gets injured, he pops his elbow while he's trying to pitch, they're screwed. They have nobody else, no position players, but also. And the Mets have done this. The Mets had like a 6-run lead, 7-run lead. Who's to say the Dodgers can't come back? They're allegedly the best lineup in baseball. The Mets have come back from 9 runs down in the 9th inning. It is not impossible to come back and win that ball game, especially in the 6th inning. So much game left to play. What are we doing? I thought I also hated that aspect. As much as I do enjoy the position player pitching every once in a while, I think that's fun. That just seemed too early. Like, guys, compete. Like, this is supposed to be an important game for you guys. Down 6 runs in the 6th inning. Like, what are we talking about? You're 2 home runs away from being right back in it.
Yeah, Yadier Molina pitched again.
Yes, I heard he got his first strikeout.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see a lot of these guys. Like, you're seeing it more and more often now with the position players. And I kind of enjoy it because it gives you, like, that fun, like,
it's
baseball
fun.
is fun type of thing.
Yes,
especially when Brett Phillips is out there.
Oh, I mean, that guy just loves playing baseball.
Yeah.
Maybe more than anyone else in the world. But like, and sure, I understand the thought process, especially if you're down like 10, 15 runs. Like, there's no reason to waste one of your arms. It just, sure. But also, save everybody some trouble. Let's just forfeit. You know what I thought was interesting too, on the Cardinals for a second? Manny Machado said this week that he thinks it's ridiculous that Albert and I guess potentially Molina are not having more of like a farewell tour. Are you a fan of the farewell tour?
I think it all depends on the player. Like,
but like those are legends.
Those 2 players definitely deserve it.
Like Jeter got one.
Ortiz, I believe, also got.
Yes. Oh yeah. He got all his little gifts and things. I would definitely, for sure, the best one was the telephone booth. that he not telephone booth, like the payphone thing from the dugout that he smashed. I think it was the Orioles that happened at.
Yeah, I think for certain legends of the game, it's their right to go out on their terms, and especially on guys like that where they're not going out because of injury. They're just old and they've done it all at this point.
Yep.
I think it's good for the fans. It's good for the game because it's just like a way for them to remember what these players did for the game. And like for me, Derek Jeter was a guy that I grew up watching. Like I played baseball because of Derek Jeter type things.
Heck yeah.
And to watch him get his farewell tour, seeing these fans that have booed him his entire career, and now all of a sudden like everyone's giving him the cheers. Like
it's
that's
cool.
Just
It's
cool
really
to
it
see.
grows the game because it's like, all right, as much as, and it was like the Derek Jeter commercial when I think it was that commercial came out like right the year of his farewell tour where everyone's like kind of tipping their cap to him, and like even there's like the Red Sox fans that they're like reluctantly like, yeah, we have to tip our cap, and they look at each other. It's like, we get it, he's a legend, move on.
Also, like we've talked about it, like Albert Pujols when we were growing up, he was the best player in the league.
He was the machine. He was a god.
But kids now don't know who he is. If they're getting these farewell tours, it's, son at the game with his dad, like, Dad, why are they getting this standing ovation for someone on the other team? And it's just a way to start a conversation about, well, this is the history of the game, and that's just how you keep all these memories going, is by having something to trigger in our brains, like, oh, remember when they did this? And then, like, parents being able to pass down to their kids why this game is the way, like, how special it is.
Right. You know what's interesting, too, is, like, the thing with Albert is he hasn't really played, like, that good in, like, a few years. So it's kind of like one of those things where, and I get it to a certain extent, like, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that's done it recently, but I know people have. Like, they'll, in any sport, they'll retire on a high note because it's better not only for their personal health, mental health, but also for like their story in the game. Like Albert hasn't been an all-star since 2015.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, these kids that are 13, 14, 15, they don't know peak Albert. They have no idea. But if you hop on his baseball reference page and you go back to 2008 when he won an MVP and with an 1100 OPS and hit 37 jacks, like, that guy was a machine. No pun intended.
Oh, no. If we're going back to the farewell tours, David Ortiz's last season, you remember how good he was?
Yeah.
Like, he led the league in doubles, RBIs, slugging percentage, and
I actually was at
OPS.
his last game at Fenway.
Were you?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. It was against the Blue Jays. I think they clinched a wild card spot. And fun fact, my roommate in college, his older brother is the GM for the Blue Jays.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even like Derek Jeter, like what's the thing that everyone remembers? It's, he had a walk-off hit in his, last game at Yankee Stadium. Like those are the cool things about knowing if a player's going to have their last season or not. Yeah. And most times it's, okay, they're injured, they can't come back type things. Like how many times do you see in sports where it's like, oh, this player had surgery and you just never see them ever again? Like if you're able to go out on your own terms, like all rights to you. Like, enjoy it.
Yeah. I think that's that's what the Cardinals are doing. If anybody's enjoying playing their last year, it's Yachty, Pujols, and Wainwright are just and Wainwright's been pitching great. Like kudos to you, Adam Wainwright, with a 2.73 ERA at 58 years old also.
Yeah. I would love to watch the Cardinals win a World Series this season with those guys going out. I think it's the storybook ending that everyone loves about
that
sports.
Would be epic. Even if they don't win the World Series and are just in the playoffs, maybe even win a round in the playoffs, that'd be fire. And like, listen, in the NL Central right now, they're only a half game back. They play the Brewers in a couple weeks. Like, they could easily be in contention for the division, if not win it. And that, like, they won last year, right? They won the division, I believe.
I believe so, yeah.
I think so. For them to go out and win the division this year, that's cool in itself. That's a great way to say, hey, we had a great season with our legendary guys, and like, let's go play in the playoffs. Whatever happens, happens. I think they'd probably run into the Dodgers the way it stands right now if they were to win that division. But I would love to see them have a nice little like storybook end to the season. However, it actually ends up going. I think that's super cool.
Absolutely.
You got anything else, man?
No, because we have to record another episode.
We have to
after
record
this.
another episode. Guys, next week we're going to be in Omaha for the College World Series. If you're there, come say what's up to us. Come to the Baseball Lifestyle booth in the bullpen at the Omaha Baseball Village. It is going to be absolutely epic. Next week's episode, we're going to be putting together our potential all-star team, so stay tuned for that. And we'll see you guys in Omaha. See you next time.
Deuces.
Baseball lifestyle, it's my lifestyle.